Good morning, students. In the last class, we have seen the organization of the microcomputer. So, means like what are the components which are there in the microcomputer and how the microcomputer is booting up when you are powering on the system, and where exactly the operating system is going to be stored. And in order to open your operating system is or boot up your operating system, what are the factors which are playing a major role in booting up your system? Okay, we have seen that one. I'm going to do some extension to the last session, a few minutes of extension. So after that, we will come to the basics of our microprocessor actual topics. Okay, this is also actual topic, but it is a little bit extension. Okay, so let me take that one. Okay, so I'm going to take this video. Let me cross check whether it is recording or not. Yeah, it's recording. Perfect. No problem. No issues. Okay. So here in the last class we have seen this one, right? Computer in the microcomputer we are having the CPU, ROM, RAM, input output devices. Why I am extending this lecture means to reconclude that the microprocessor is always working in the RAM space. Microprocessor is always working in the RAM space. So I'm having the fear whether it is recording or not because this is the third time I'm recording the video. Okay, it is recording. Don't worry. Okay. Okay, so microprocessor is always working in the RAM space. If you want, I'll show the practical proof also. I'll show the practical one. So here uh, whatever the operating system and whatever the applications you are having, like a VLC media player, MP4, MP3, all those media players, and any kind of gaming applications, everything is going to be stored inside the hard disk. Everything is going to be stored inside the hard disk. Okay, because it is a permanent memory. We are supposed to save that or hold that particular one permanently, right? So because of that, the installed applications are there in the hard disk. That too in the C drive. That too in the C drive, local disk C drive. Okay, now so when you are trying to open a particular application, or when you are trying to what we say the boot up the system, when you are trying to boot up the system, what is happening? The operating system which is there in the hard disk, that is first loaded into the RAM space, and this is going to be done by who? This is going to be done by the bootstrap loader, which we have seen in the last class. Means operating system available over here is going to be operating system available over here is going to be loaded into the RAM space by the bootstrap loader, into the RAM space by the bootstrap loader, and the starting address of this particular operating system, is given to the microprocessor that is there in the CPU. Okay, now so I'm just calling the microprocessor as the MP in short for my convenient. So here MP is nothing but the microprocessor. So once it gets the starting address of your operating system, it is going to be done the booting process. It is going to be done the booting process means what are the minimum and major applications need to be open in order to run your system. All those things are going to be run by the microprocessor initially during the boot up process. Once the boot up is over, then whatever the operation you are doing, that operation is going to be come across by the microprocessor through the RAM only. Let us suppose I'm inserting one pen drive. Okay, now I'm assuming this one as a pen drive. I'm inserting one pen drive. Okay, now so this pen drive information, if you want allow your computer to come to know about exactly the pen drive is inserted, then there is an application written and installed inside the OS. And soon after you inserted your pen drive, that pen drive application is automatically loaded from the hard disk into the RAM space, and the starting address of this pen drive application information is given to the microprocessor. So because of that, it is going to be recognized as your microprocessor. Because of that, it is going to be recognized as your microprocessor. Okay, we have some other applications, all those things I'm not going to explain much about that one. So this is a basic one. And another case is in order to prove practically whether the applications are running inside the RAM or not, what I'm going to do means I'm going to take one simple example. What I'll do is I think most of the applications are already open. I'll take the Excel sheet, MS Excel. Okay, MS Excel, Excel sheet, Excel sheet. What you are supposed to observe means you simply observe how much time taken by the system to open this particular application. Okay, now to open this particular application, it took some seconds, few seconds. Okay, it took few seconds. Okay, so now what I'm going to do means, so here as I said, what is happening when you are trying to open the application? What is happening? What is happening? This Excel sheet application available in the hard disk that is loaded into the RAM space, and starting address of this Excel is given to the CPU. That's why your Excel is open. That's why your Excel is open. In the next step, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use or close this particular Excel application. Again, I'm going to reopen this Excel. How much time it took? Very less time compared to the initial case. Very less time compared to the initial case, because this application is already loaded into the RAM, available inside the RAM only. So means in the second time, no need to load the application from the hard disk into the RAM, because that application is already there in the RAM, and this information is directly given to the microprocessor to execute your application. Even though you closed your application, but that application information is there in the temporary memory, which is nothing but the RAM. Okay, now this is a practical evidence. Means when you are trying to open the application for the first time, then it is taking more time. When you are when you close that application and try to open the application for the next time, it is taking a little time. Why it is taking little time? Because your application, which is already loaded from the hard disk into the RAM, is already available. So that's why the CPU is directly going to the RAM and picking your application and opening your application. If you want to know one practical scenario, if you want to see the practical scenario, what you do is I think you would have gone through the WhatsApp application. You would have gone through the FB, Facebook application. You would have gone through your YouTube application. What you do is, if you want to know exactly, restart your phone. Otherwise, in short, I think we have a shortcut method to check it out. What are the applications which are recently opened? And what you do is, if the WhatsApp is recently opened, then try to reopen that one. It is taking a small period of time. If YouTube is already open, it takes only small period of time. What you do is, whatever the recent shown is there now, you close them and try to reopen the WhatsApp or the YouTube. At that time, it is going to be take the more time. It is going to take the more time. So that is the difference. Okay, now? That is the difference between the already open application and for the first time you are opening the application. Okay, now here also, if you are trying to open a particular application for the first time, it is taking more time. It is taking more time. Why it is taking more time? Because it needs to be loaded from the hard disk into the RAM space, and from the RAM space to the microprocessor, and the microprocessor is going to reach the starting address. Why it is given the SIMA? App loaders are there now. App loaders are loading your application in the from the hard disk onto the RAM, and they are giving the starting address of your application to the CPU. Then only the CPU is going to run your program. Otherwise, it is not going to run your program. Okay, now? Otherwise it is not going to run your program. So in short, if anyone asking you that have you know about the microprocessor, you are going to say, yeah. If you are not having the confidence, but we can say one point that, yeah, I know about the microprocessor. Then they are going to ask you one thing: where exactly your microprocessor is working inside the system? It is always working inside the RAM space. It is always working inside the RAM space. In order to run your application, in order to run your computer, the major part which you are supposed to have inside the computer is the RAM. If you want to know the practical one, if you are having the computer at home, what you do is remove your RAM device, RAM chip from your RAM slot, from the RAM slot on the motherboard, and turn on your computer. Then the computer is not going to be boot up, but once you power on your computer, suddenly it is going to be use the beep sound faster. It is going to give the fast beep sound, indicating that I don't have the RAM. I don't have the RAM, which is a mandate. Okay, so without RAM, the CPU is not going to do any kind of operation. Okay, so and one more thing, in the last class I told that point, when you are opening the application for the when you are opened one application like Word and all those things, you type out the document I have not saved and power goes off, then definitely you are going to lose the data. Why we are losing the data? Because whatever the information you typed in that particular document, that information is there in the RAM. It is not yet reflected into the hard disk. It is not yet reflected into the hard disk. But if you save that file, then it is reflected from the, what is that, from the RAM space into the hard disk. So even though the power is turned off, it is not going to be lost, because a copy of that particular information which is there in the RAM, a copy of that particular information which is there in the RAM loaded into the hard disk already. But if you are adding the new information in that file after saving, and whatever the new information you added, and if it is not saved, then that newly entered information is going to be lost. Okay, now we are going to lose that information if at all the power is turned off automatically. Okay, now all of a sudden, it is not automatically, all of a sudden. Okay, now so in short, we can give one conclusion that microprocessor is always working in the RAM. So if you want to allow any application or allow any device to get accessed by the your computer, then that device should have the appropriate application. If you want to know one more thing, nowadays we are having, not only nowadays, every day, everywhere, from last year, from olden days also, we are having the what is that, printers. Okay, now when you are trying to when you purchase your new printer and trying to connect that one to the system, it is not going to be get print the documents, because you need to install the drivers. We used to call that one as a driver. Driver is nothing but one of the application. In order to recognize your printer by the system, you should install the third party application which is coming from that particular manufacturer. If you are installing that one, then only that application is going to be open automatically when you are connecting the printer, and that application is there in the RAM space. That application is there in the RAM space, and this RAM information, that application is there in the RAM space, and that information is given to the CPU. That's why your CPU will come to know about your printer. Okay, now, so this is what the procedure available inside the computer. This is a process which is going to be done inside the computer, and remember that the microprocessor is always working in the RAM. If anyone asking you where exactly your microprocessor are working, you can simply say that it is always working in the RAM space. It is always working in the RAM space. Okay, now this is all about your what is that, the microcomputer basic explanation, and a basic brief overview about the the topics what we covered. The topics what we covered. Okay. Now what we do is we'll go for the introduction of our microcomputer. Sorry, introduction to our microprocessor. Before going to the introduction to our EduAssist microprocessor, I would like to concentrate on few points, few basic things. We are going to see the basics only today. So few basic things. One is the we are supposed to know the different types of number systems which are there in the digital electronics. We know about there are different number systems are there. I'm just listing only the three. Binary number system, decimal number system, hexadecimal number system, octal number system is also there, but I'm not listing that one. So I'm just listing only the three types of number system. Okay, now when you are taking a number system, what is the use of the number system? To represent a particular value using that method, using that particular number system method, then it is called a particular number system. Okay, now so means if you want to represent any quantity, let us suppose I would like to represent the 5. I would like to represent the 5 using the binary number system. Then what you are going to do? You are going to write the 5 in terms of the binary combination. In terms of the binary combination means if you want to represent a particular value using a particular binary number system, whatever the digits which are there in that particular binary number system, though using those digits only, we are going to represent the value. We are going to represent the value. Okay, now so here how many number of digits are there in that particular number system? How many number of digits are there in that particular number system? That is indicating the base of the binary number, base of that particular number system. So in the binary number system, how many digits are there? Using how many digits we are representing the quantity? Any value, any value. That may be the 5, that may be the 10, that may be the 1000, 2000, 10,000, whatever the value it is. If you want to represent that one using the binary number system, we are using the 0 and 1 only. With the help of the 0 and 1, we are representing any kind of value. Any kind of value. So Here, how many digits we are using to represent the value? Two digits, 0 and 1. So, what is the base of the binary number system? 2. What is the base of the binary number system? 2. Similar to that, in the what is the base of the decimal number system? How many digits are there in the decimal number system to represent the value? 0, comma 1, comma 2, comma and so on and so on. 9. So total 10 digits are there. That's why base of the decimal number system is a 10. So if you go to the hexadecimal number system, base of the hexadecimal system is a 16. They are 0, comma 1, comma 2, comma and so on. 9, comma A, comma B, comma and so on F. Okay. So how many digits are there from A to F? And 0 to 9. 0 to 9 is the 10, A to F are the 6. Totally 16. So that's why the base of the binary number system, base of the hexadecimal number system is a 16. Base is nothing, base of a particular number system is nothing but the number of digits which are used in that particular number system. That becomes the base of the binary number system. That becomes the base of the binary number system. Okay. So now when you are going to a particular when you are having these many types of number systems, we are mostly concentrating on the binary number system and the hexadecimal number system. Binary number system and the hexadecimal number system. Before going further, I would like to say one point that microprocessor is always storing the information in the memory in terms of the hexadecimal number system. Note down this point. It is a very, very important point. Microprocessor is always storing the information inside the memory in the hexadecimal number system format. In the hexadecimal number system format, microprocessor is always storing the information in the memory using the hexadecimal number system. But microprocessor is doing the operations. Means we have seen in the last class that when you want to execute one instruction, it is performing the fetching operation, decoding operation, fetching operation, uh, decoding operation, decision making, and performing the operation. Decision making means depending on the decoding information, it is going to be generates the control signals and executes the operation. Okay, decoding is nothing but what? Converting. Your program is stored in terms of the hexadecimal number system, and this this hexadecimal value, which is called as a opcode value. I think you would have seen that one. Using the 8085 microprocessor kit, you would have executed your program by entering the opcodes into the memory, and you would have used the execute command or the co command to execute your program. Okay. So at that time, what will happen? It is taking the opcode. Decoding is nothing but opcode is converted into the opcode which is there in the hexadecimal system format, converted into the binary number system. Converted into the binary number system. Okay. It is converted into the binary number system, and yeah, it is converted into the binary number system, and the microprocessor is working based on the binary number system only. Microprocessor is working based on the binary number system only. Why it is working based on the binary number system? Because microprocessor is designed using the digital electronics, using the logic gates, using the gates and the memory components like flip flops, all those things. Using those only, it is designed. Okay, so that's why microprocessor is always working in the binary system format, but the information is stored in the memory is in the hexadecimal number system format. Hexadecimal number system format. Okay, now we have seen the basics now. What exactly the base of the binary number system, base of the hexadecimal number system, base of the hexadecimal number system. Now let us go for some factors which you are going to face in the market. Some factors which you are going to face in the market means the Viva questions or the interview questions. If at all you would have studied one microprocessor, like I'm taking the 8085 microprocessor. If you are taking the 8085 microprocessor, what is the maximum address that can be accessible by your 8085 microprocessor? What is the maximum address that can be accessible by your 8086 microprocessor? Okay, maximum address that can be accessible by your maximum address means maximum memory that can be accessible by your 8086 microprocessor. Do you have any idea? Yeah, you know that one, right? It is going to be the 8085 is able to access 64 kilo memory, and you would have read it as a 64 KB. KB means kilobyte. Means KB actually 64K cross B. B is nothing but byte. Means we are having the 64. We are having the 64 kilo locations. Each location is able to store the byte information. Each location is able to store the byte information. Here I am not defining the byte, nibble and word. Is it necessary? Yeah. Let me define that one also as we move on. So 64 kilobytes are 64 kilo memory locations, and each memory location is able to hold the byte. 8085 is able to access the 64 kilobytes of memory. Now the question is how we are calculating this size. That is going to be done based on the size of the address bus. That is going to be done based on the size of the address bus. What is the size of the address bus? 8085. I'm just taking the short A/B, which is address bus. Address bus size is 16-bit, right? It is going to be the 16-bit. When we are having the 16-bit, we can calculate the maximum size. How we are going to calculate the maximum size? By taking the base of the number system. Means base of which number system microprocessor is working. Using which number system microprocessor is working? Using the binary number system. Base of binary number system. Okay. So what is the base of the binary number system? We have seen. I'm going to take that one directly. 2 power 16. We are having the formula. I will give that formula. So 2 power 16. 2 power 16, which is equals to 2 power 16, which is equals to 64K. 2 power 16, which is equals to 64K. How we are getting that one? We are getting that one just because rewriting the 2 power. For the power, I'm taking the caps. 2 power 16 is written as 2 power 6 into 2 power 10, which is equals to 2 power 16 is nothing but how much? 2 power 16 is equals to how much? So 2 power 6 equals to the 64, and 2 power 10 is nothing but the 1024. 1024 can be written as K. 1024 can be written as K. Now the question is why we are having this entire thing. Okay. Okay. So it is going to be the 2 power 16. Yeah. So 8086 microprocessor, 8085 microprocessor. The address bus size is a 16-bit, and it is written as a 2 power 16, right? Control B. 2 power 16, which is equals to, it is not coming, come on, which is equals to 2 power 64K, right? It is equals to the 64K. What is the K value means? 1K. 1K equals to 1024, which is nothing but 1024, which is equals to 2 power 10. 2 power 10. 2 power 10 is nothing but 1024. 2 power 10 is nothing but 1024, right? 2 power 10 is nothing but 1024. Okay. Now you may ask me, sir, why can't we take the 2 power 9? Why can't we take the 2 power 9? Okay, now if you want to know that one, what I'll do is I'll go to this. I'll write something. I think overwrite is not possible over here. 2 power 9. 2 power 9 means 2 power 9 is equals to the how much more? 2 power 9 equals to 512. 2 power 10 is equals to 2 power 10 equals to 1024. Let me take one more combination also. 2 power 11 is equals to 2048. So out of these three combinations, 2 power 9, 2 power 10, 2 power 11, which one is near to 1000? 1024 is near to 1000. That's why 2 power 10 in the microprocessor case, 2 power 10 is treated as a 1 1k. It is treated as a 1k. Okay, it is treated as a 1k. 2 power 10 is treated as a 1k. So 64k means here what I have done with this one. What is that? Wait, give me some time. Is it recording or not? We are in the window recording, right? Yeah. Okay. So that's why 2 power 10 equals to the 1024. And which one is near out of these three? 2 power 10 is near to the 1000. That's why it is called as a 1k. That's why it is called as a 1k. So when you are taking 8085 microprocessor, 8085 microprocessor, maximum memory, max memory supported is a 64 kilobytes. 64 kilobytes. Okay, 64k means which is equals to the 2 power, which is equals to the 2 power 16. So here the 16 represents 2 power 16. Here the 16 represents what exactly the 16 represents? 16 represents the size of the address bus. Means 8085 microprocessor 8085 is supporting 16-bit address. That is supporting the 16-bit address. Okay. So why I'm saying this one means if you are going to any interview or viva, they'll simply ask one question: what is your processor? For example, I'm saying the 8085 microprocessor. Then they'll ask you what is the maximum memory that can be accessible by your microprocessor. Then you are supposed to say that is going to be the 64k. How you are calculating that one? Using a formula. Let me show you the formula. Yeah, I prepared the slide for that. That's why I'm going to this one. This is the formula. Formula to calculate the maximum memory that can be accessible by a microprocessor, any microprocessor. But if you want to know maximum memory that can be accessible by a particular microprocessor, you are supposed to know the size of the address bus of that particular microprocessor. Size of the address bus of the microprocessor. Sometimes size of the address bus is also called as width of the address bus or address wide. Okay, now. So here the formula is base of the binary number system to the power of size of the address bus. Whatever the microprocessor memory size, maximum memory accessible capacity you would like to calculate, that size, that address bus size you should come to know. Once you know that one, you simply take the base of the binary number system, which is nothing but the 2 power, which is nothing but the, in short, you can write it as a control C, control V. In short, you can write it as a 2 power size of the base, because base of the binary number system is nothing but what? 2. Base of the binary number system is nothing but the 2. 2 per size of the address bus. Okay. Is that clear? And one more point, what you are supposed to know is, you are supposed to remember, a particular microprocessor is called as a 8-bit microprocessor. A particular microprocessor is called as a 4-bit microprocessor. A particular microprocessor is called as a 16-bit microprocessor. What exactly this bit microprocessor? Let me take your example, one of your example which you would have studied. It is not would have, you have studied. Okay, now which is the 8085. 8085 is called as, what is the 8085 is called as? It is called as 8-bit microprocessor. Previously we studied about the addresses. Previously we studied about the this entire thing is about the addresses, but this one is related to the some other, because a particular microprocessor is called as a 8-bit microprocessor. Here the this size indicates the size of the data bus. Size of the data bus. Why 8085 is called as the 8-bit microprocessor? The because this is that. Okay, this is that. I'm writing in short because size of data bus is 8, because size of data bus is 8, because size of the data bus which is supported by the 8085 is 8-bit. Again, based on what it is decided, that is a different scenario. I will come to know that as we move on. Okay, so 8085 microprocessor is called as 8-bit microprocessor. 8-bit microprocessor because size of the data bus supported by the 8085 is a 8-bit data bus. 8-bit data bus. And what is the maximum memory that can be accessible by the 8085? It is a 64K. So 2 points. So only 2 points you are supposed to know. One is the memory size. You are supposed to know only two things. One is the that to max memory. Max memory size, which is supported by the microprocessor. And so if you want to know the max memory size, you should know the size of address bus. You should know the size of address bus. But if you want to know what a microprocessor called, for that you should know the means microprocessor called as in short, I am writing this one, is called as dash bit processor or microprocessor. Dash bit processor or microprocessor. Here you are supposed to write the size of the data bus. Size of the data bus, which is indicating the size of data bus, which is indicating the size of data bus. Okay, so this is what the brief introduction, what we are supposed to know before starting our 8086 microprocessor. Okay, so I think this is all about the basic explanation how we are calculating the maximum memory that can be accessible by a microprocessor, because it is one of the Viva question, and most of the cases they are going to ask you in the competitive exam also, like CSIR. They are going to give the dash bit. Let us suppose they are going to give simple case. My microprocessor, they'll give the question like this. My microprocessor is supporting the 12-bit address bus then what is the maximum memory? Then what you are supposed to know? You are supposed to calculate the 2 per sorry you are supposed to calculate the 2 per 12. Otherwise, if 20-bit address, then memory size is 2 per 20. 2 per 20 means 2 per 12. 2 per 12 you are supposed to take 12. 2 per 12. 2 per 12 is how much? Shall I rewrite this one? Yeah, 2 per 12 can be rewritten as 2 per 2, 2 per 10. Okay, so 2 per 10 na? So 2 per 10, sorry, 2 per 2, 2 per 2, so which is equals to the, so 2 per 2 means, I'm just writing this one for your realization. I'm not concentrating on the students who are very faster. I'm concentrating on the least students who are not able to realize very fastly. 2 per 2 is nothing but 2 per 12 can be written as 2 per 2 and 2 per 10. You know that one in the mathematics case. 2 per 2 means 4. But we know that in the microprocessor 2 per 10 is nothing but called as a K. Means maximum memory that can be accessible by your microprocessor is a 4K. Like this, they may ask the question in the what is that, competitive exams also. Okay, so this is all about what we are supposed to know before starting the 8086 microprocessor or any kind of microprocessor. Okay, so that's all for today's class. Because I'm winding up this class, uh, the class length is going to be more, because if it is more, then the size of the video is going to be more, then uploading the video onto the YouTube is very difficult if the size is more. Okay, so that's why I'm terminating this one. In the next class directly we are going to start the architecture of the 8086 microprocessor. Till now, if you are having any queries regarding the last class and this class, you can comment in the WhatsApp group. Otherwise you can comment in the WhatsApp group. Otherwise you can comment in the uh, video in YouTube itself. Okay, now if you are having any queries. Okay, and if you are expecting anything new in the explanation, then let me know that one also, either in the comment section in the YouTube or in the WhatsApp group. That's all for today's session. So hope you understood everything. Okay, we'll continue in the next class with the architecture of 8086 microprocessor. Thank you.